here with a video about Masters 25. But before we get into that, I do want to give a little bit update on the channel. Feeling a little bit under the weather. Still wanted to get a video out today so that my streak is alive. I have not missed a day for producing a video in January. So that is good news there. However, the bad news is I might not be able to get through this video without sneezing or coughing into the microphone. So if I do, please, I apologize in advance. Please forgive me. Anyhow, before we get into the video, I want to give a little bit of a shameless self-promotion here for our Patreon. It does have a lot to do with this video, though, because we are going to probably have more Masters 25 available than we'll use for our local game store. So this is where, being part of our Patreon, you can actually save some money if you're interested in Masters 25 or anything else for that matter. We have a Patreon tier called the Pirates Plunder, which is a $20 tier, which no one so far has signed up for, and you get up to 5 products a month for the $20 or up to 10 products a month for the $25 tier. All you have to do is cover the shipping and then just the cost of the product. So what that means is anything that we can get directly from Wizards or directly from our distributors, we will ship it off to you if you just cover all of the fees or all of the costs associated with it. So I think that if you're in the market for buying at least a couple boxes a month, or if you're looking at whenever they're, and the people that are signed up for these tiers or above, if you're actually even signed up for these higher tiers, you get all the perks of the lower tiers as well. They'll get top priority when we do have specific, like, exclusive products, or when we only have a certain amount of allotment from Wizards or our distributors. Everything we don't use for our local game store, the top priority will go to everyone on these tiers. So if this is something you're interested in, I know that Rudy does a very similar tier as this, but this is open to anything that we can get from distributors, and we'll try to stay as the best communication as possible. Right now there is some pretty sweet deals that the distributors are offering. It looks like they're all trying to open up a bit of capital, and we're seeing booster boxes for $76 for recently rotated. Some of the good ones that we were looking at, a Journey into Nyx was on there, which is, I think there's some pretty neat little cards in Journey into Nyx. It's one of the sets that's definitely harder to find, like on eBay. There's also Eldritch Moon, which I think is the best current rotated set to invest in, and there's also Conspiracy Take the Crown, which also has a pretty good estimated or expected value per box. So the same goes for if you're in the market for like Rivals of Ixalan. Of course, we can't get them quite at that rate, but we can get them for $78 from Wizards. And if you're looking to buy some Rivals, for example, or even pre-order them, and you're part of the Pirates Plunder or Pirates Plunder ×2 or any of the higher tiers, this is a good way to get them at cheap prices. I mean, it's gonna, if you utilize all 5 products, that's basically $4 per product. So you can kind of do the math there. And I mean, usually if you're even signed up for this and you go over your allotment of it, we'll be pretty reasonable with you at getting you good deals for it. So anyway, there's my shameless self-promotion for the Patreon. Another thing I do is I will tweet out little market alerts like this Bold Even Trading post, which has low supply, and I've done others in the past. So all the money that we get from the Patreon goes directly into the channel. We bought some good audio equipment. It went to buying a computer before. It's also, our next purchase is going to be a good camera. We're looking at a camera and a lens. It's going to cost us around, I would know, between $1,200 and $1,600 for the camera we want. So we can start doing some more in-depth product reviews and openings and stuff like that. So it goes to a good cause, goes to updating the channel. And if you're interested in this, I'm interested in helping you out. If you're interested in helping me out, maybe we can work together and you can get some cheap products. International, you can also take advantage of this because all we have to do is just open it. And nothing can be sealed when we send it to you. So if you just trust us to kind of slit the packs open and or whatever it is, you can get international can sign up for this as well. So anyway, let's talk about Masters 25. So it has just been confirmed to me that Masters 25 is not a WPN exclusive set. It will be released on the 16th of March. And the allocations are for core, you get around 2 to 3 cases. Advanced, which is what Gone Rogues is, we get around 4 to 6 cases. And Advanced Plus will get around 6 to 9. I believe the allotment is before it was Advanced got 9 to 12. Advanced got like 6 to 8, and Core got 2 to 4 or 3 to 4. I think is what I don't know if their allotments were different. I think it was down. I mean, up from this. But this is still, there was a second wave of Iconic Masters, and this one has been confirmed also to be at your Walmarts and Targets. So be sure to go support your local Walmarts and your Targets, and you know, because they need all the support they can get, and go buy from them. That's sarcasm for all the people that don't have a sarcasm meter. All right, so the response though on the Wizards Play Network, I can't show it for privacy reasons. They don't allow it, but a lot of the local game store owners are really upset with this, as they should be. I just don't think that Wizards had any time from the release of Iconic Masters to Masters 25 to make any adjustments. I really think that it was already printed by the time Iconic Masters was distributed, and all the backlash from it, and it was just too little too late. So I'm going to make some predictions for Masters 25, but let's first talk about Iconic Masters and to see if the market can actually absorb Masters 25. So currently, Sports & More is sold out of Iconic Masters, so now we actually do have some price stabilization for Iconic Masters, which is sad when we're saying the price stabilization for Iconic Masters is 150. If you remember all the Master sets before, about this time, now that the set is about 3 months old, November, December, January, yeah, it's about 3 months old, the sets from the Master sets beforehand were usually up to about 185, I think, for Eternal, and like $200 for the modern Masters ones. And then the modern Masters 2015 and 2017 started to go up to about MSRP, and then stayed at MSRP about 6 months after the release. So comparatively speaking, Iconic Masters is very far behind. We can still get them from distributors for very cheap. I think 127 is our price that we can get them from distributors. And Zach, correct if I'm wrong, we can still get them from Wizards?
I'll have to double check, but I think we can from the last time they had an inventory list.
Okay, so I think we're not sure, because I know we are getting them cheaper from our distributors than we were from Wizards. So I think we can also still get them. So this is unprecedented, because of course this has been a release from Iconic to 25. It was just a very, very short 6 months. So this is still will be relatively fresh. And I think that Iconic Masters might have a kind of a decline in price when Masters 25 comes out, because who wants to buy Iconic Masters at that point? The one thing Iconic Masters does have going for it is to me, it does have some very key cards. They got lucky, especially with Horizon Canopy taking off right when the set was released, because beforehand Horizon Canopy was kind of a more obscure card. It saw play in Bogles, which has been a deck that has pretty much been non-existent for a while in the modern format, and it might actually have a resurgence too, because it's really good versus those Jeskai control decks that are starting to show up like crazy. And it's played in a few other decks, but now there are more than a few decks that have adopted the Horizon Canopy as 2, 3, and even 4 ofs in their deck list. One of them being Humans, which is one of the most played, if not one of the most successful decks right now in the modern meta. So Iconic Masters does have some stable of these modern staples in the format, being let's just take a look here at the cards that are in the set. And it's going to be the Horizon Canopy, is the Aether Vial, and the Cryptic Command. All of these are extremely played right now in the format. So they're all rares. There isn't like really a mythic that has a lot of play in modern. I would say the mythic that sees the most play is probably going to be Archangel of Thune, would be my guess of the most highly played mythic in the set, or Primeval Titan. Primeval Titan would probably be the one, but this has had a bunch of reprints, is banned in Commander, so there doesn't have the double dipping demand. But a lot of these other sets cards too do have quite a bit of demand in Commander. So I'm thinking that this set is eventually going to stabilize off and then start going up in value. And so if this set does go down even more in value, and we can even snap up boxes in March for even cheaper than this, I think that this might be a buy. So the whole thing is, though, if Masters 25 has the exact same amount, which Iconic Masters seems to have the exact same amount as the Modern Masters 2017, or maybe slightly higher, according to some people that it is the exact same, but the allotment was just distributed differently, that the Walmarts and Targets got a lot of the allotment that was used for tournaments. So some of the Masters, because remember some of them had Grand Prix associated with them, and so there was a lot of the the allotment was just used for the tournaments, where in this case it wasn't. So it went to Target and Walmart instead. So 25, we'll have to see. To me, I think it probably does have the exact same. Like I said, I think it was too little, too late for them to cut down on the amount of 25 that is going to be out there. Now, I do think 25 is going to be a better set than Iconic Masters, because I think it was most likely a better thought out set. To me, Iconic Masters seemed to be Desperation Commander reprints and Desperation Modern reprints. If you take down the list, these were all cards that were starting to have a lot of pressure from the secondary market for Commander or Modern, but none of them really had a lot of supply to begin with. So the Mana Drains, even the Horizon Canopies, the Fluster Storm, all of these cards were cards that were from sets that hadn't seen a reprint yet, and the supply was really starting to outstretch the demand, or vice versa, the demand was starting to outstretch the supply. A good example of these would be like the Consecrated Sphinx. You could look at the Mirrored and Besieged version. It had not received a reprint up to this point, and it was just going up, 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 up. So it spiked here from $14 to $23, and all the way up to about $28 before the Iconic Masters was able to reduce the price. So I mean, this was the expected, or the value of Iconic Masters was actually very similar to Masters, Modern Masters 2017 or Modern Masters 2015 when it was released. You got to think that those had some really pricey cards like Mox Opals in the 2015, as well as in 2017 had all the fetch lands. So the problem though with Iconic Masters was it just didn't really have any cards that had extreme demand in either format. So you had Mana Drain that still is just hemorrhaging its value down to $66.97. And I think that the card that sees the most play out of any format would be the Thoughtseize, followed by the Cryptic Command. And Cryptic Command had already been reprinted twice in Master Sets. So this is the third reprinting, and we saw what the third reprinting in a Master Sets did to Tarmogoyf. Just really bottomed out the price. So Cryptic Command is very similar. So the thing that I think that has going for Masters 25 though is it didn't have as much restrictions of what was put in the set. So again, this was they seem to target low supply cards that had gained a lot of value, hadn't had a reprint yet in Modern or Commander, whereas 25 can just focus on anything of the 25 years of Magic. So the description of this product is: celebrates a quarter century of Magic the Gathering with popular planes mechanics and spells throughout the game's history. So I'm thinking that they're gonna take at least a block and put a card from each block in here, or mechanic. Like there's a lot of unknowns that exactly is going to be in here. It's going to start being spoiled 2 to 3 weeks before the release of this. So we have the start of March is my I think, yeah, because that gives you about a week and a half or 2 weeks and a half before it releases. So the end of February, the start of March, and it's the problem though is it really sandwiches it in between Rivals of Ixalan and then the release of Dominaria. So man, it's going to be an awkward set for Rivals of Ixalan. You really want to keep your eye open on Rivals of Ixalan for the low supply that if people start buying into Masters and forget about Rivals and then start buying into Dominaria after that. Also, Unstable supposedly has another round that's going to be coming out. People might shift their focus from Rivals back to Unstable. So just a little bit of market advice. I think people should really look into Rivals for something, a long-term post-rotation investments, because the supply will be I'm thinking it's going to be very similar to like Eldritch Moon. The supply is going to be very low compared to all of the packs that were open from the rest of the standard base sets. So Masters 25, a little bit of predictions from the Masters 25. Most Master sets do have 2 Planeswalkers in them, at least they have in the past. This one was the exception, right? Iconic Masters didn't have any Planeswalkers, so I guess this isn't set in stone. But I'm expecting either Jace, Liliana, or Karn to be in the set. My money is going to be on Karn and Liliana because Jace has already seen a reprint. But I guess Liliana has as well. But I think Lily will be in the set. I think Karn will be in the set. Both are expensive cards. And then we also have a lot of things that can be reprinted from early sets. There this is a reprint set, so I think we can make all those. People are thinking about a snow land being the dual lands being snow lands because Mark Rosewater has hinted at that. I don't think it's going to happen in 25. I don't think they're going to add anything new other than it does say it will be focusing on mechanics of popular planes. So you never know. Ice Age could have snow lands as the form of dual lands, and that's how they get around the reserve list. I highly doubt that. However, there are a lot of cards that I think are shoo-ins for this set. And then Liliana or Jace, I think, has to be in there. So I think that they're not going to hold any punches for value for this set. However, it might, unfortunately, have the same problem if they're focusing on a lot of older-based sets that Iconic Masters has, is can these cards hold their value? And especially with the reserve list looming over their head, it's quite easy to predict from older sets what cards are going to have to be in here. So a good indicator is to go over here to any of these legacy sets that have the reserve list. So we're looking at these right from here below, and you can say we'll pull up Urza's Legacy, for example, and what is not on the reserve list. So Memory Jar is, No Mercy is. Yep, all of these are. Defense of the Heart is not on the reserve list. So this is a card could easily has to be the shoe-in from Urza's Legacy or something similar. Then we have, or you can just keep going down these. There's not a lot of value because they've already hit a bunch of these that are not on the reserve list. So if you have any older cards from sets, reserve list worthy sets, I think that you should get rid of them in anticipation for the Masters 25. And there is definitely quite a few cards that are eligible for this reprint. Whereas one that I think of, Rhystic Study. Rhystic Study is a $10 common. I think that's another one people should look to get out of. And you should be preparing right now. March 18th, isn't that, or March 16th or 18th? What was it? March 16th. That isn't that far off. That's about a little over 2 months away. And there's a lot of stuff upcoming that's going to make people forget about how quickly 2 months can happen. We have the Pro Tour that's coming up. We have a set release. We have a bunch of other stuff that is being in the community at the moment that if you blink and it will be here, and there won't be enough time before spoilers to get out of them. So that's just a bit of my advice with the Masters 25 upcoming. Is this is the stuff that I'm very focused on. There's of course the modern sets are something that I would get out of any potential reprints. Just to be safe, Liliana, Jace, Karn, Mox Opal. I think those are cards you need to be prepared to get hit by the Masters 25. And again, this is going to create a lot of supply. We saw the Tarmogoyf effect. A card can only stay stable for so long. Once it hits its second or third reprint, that is where it starts to get the supply just really starts to outstretch the demand or flood the demand or whatever you want to call it, and it's hard to keep up with it. So, but these are the sets that you'd be focusing on. There are a lot of ineligible cards, so therefore you have to think of the eligible cards that could be in here. For us, Stronghold's another one. This is not on the reserve. Oh, this one is. It's the other black land. What's the other black land? The Phyrexian, the one that allows people to sacrifice a creature for 2 black mana. That's not on the reserve list. Those type of cards, I think, are the ones that you need to get out of. So anyway, I hope this video helps. If you have any questions about the Masters 25, I might be doing a little bit of a ranty video about this because we're getting kicked in the balls again as a local game store. But I don't know if they had the time to actually react. I think that the packaging for Walmarts and Targets were already done. So I don't want to crucify Wizards for maybe a decision that they might retract for having these master sets going to the big box stores. But we are also seeing the pre-release actually not be a pre-release now for game stores because it will be released on MTGO first. So it's like a secondary release. What do they call it? They're almost calling it the Future League or something. Or what are they calling the thing on MTGO? The Preview League is what they're calling it. And it was actually going to happen on Thursday. So be looking forward. I will be streaming nonstop from the release of the Ixalan, or Rivals of Ixalan on MTGO up until... I'll be doing it for all the wee hours of the day, most days. So if you're looking for that, we'll be streaming it like crazy. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions for me, we might be able to do a Q&A. I got Zach here for anything you have to talk about our store in general, any updates for the channel. Like if you really want to get in the nitty-gritty for those Patreon tiers, we'll be happy to answer all of your questions. This has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.